Hi, my name is Hwseta from Health and Welfare Wsp. I am a data officer. Today, I'll be taking you through a tutorial on how to submit your WSP and ATR, as well as register your skills development facilitator. In this session, I'll be demonstrating on how to submit WSP and other processes required prior to the final submission stages. Now, what is actual WSP and why is it important that all stakeholders submit their WSP and ATR? WSP is an abbreviation for Workplace Skills Plan. WSP is basically document skill needs in an organization and describe the wide variety of skills development intervention that the organization will to address these needs. WSP is developed annually for the period 1 April to 31st of March by a registered SDF, which is Skills Development Facilitator, and submitted to Wsp. To answer why it is important to submit WSPs. WSPs provide important sector information to Wsp on employee profiles, skills gap, needs, and training interventions. WSPs enable levy-paying organizations to access mandatory grants, which is a certain percentage organization receive back for complying. Lastly, WSP submission is the key to accessing discretionary grants, which are funding modules within Wsp such as bursaries, learnerships, and internships. To begin with our tutorials, WSP is incorporated in 3 segments. The most important is the submission of the WSP, but there are other segments that are before that need every stakeholder to comply with, which is having a T number if you are a non-levy paying organization, and ensuring all levy paying organizations, the SDL numbers are properly registered within our ERP system. Now, once you have your T number, you have applied for your T number through your appropriate or designated provincial office. Once you have your T number as a non-levy paying organization, it has been approved. Your next step will be Skills Development Facilitator registration. Now that is done on our website. As you can see, I'm on www.hwseta.org.za. You go down, scroll down until you see Hwseta portals. Under Hwseta portals, there will be application portals. My cursor is under Skills Development Facilitator. That's where you would need to register if you are a new skills development facilitator. Once your registration is complete and successful, you get a ref number. That ref number will come to your registered email. Once you receive that ref number, you send it to the nearest provincial office. They have access to approve. Once it's approved, you will get a link with login credentials or a link to create login credentials. That's when you'll be able to log into a system and start with your WSP submission. In this stage, we are thinking that you have your logins, you have your T number, you are a successfully registered skills development facilitator with an organization that is on our ERP system. Your next stage is simply to do your WSP. Once you're on our website, you go to Stakeholder Portal, Stakeholder Login, and you'll see a page with the email and password. So all you'll do is input the email, password, and click on Login. The interface of my ERP as an employee of Wsp will obviously be different from 2 stakeholders. Stakeholders will only have SDP and WSS tabs. For WSP, you'll only need SDP, click on WSP, and this is where you create under this button. All your previous WSPs will be shown on the screen. From whatever year your organization has started, they'll be shown in the screen. You click on Create, because remember, each and every year, we have to create a new WSP. So because this coming financial year will be 2023-2024, we'll need to create a new WSP for that specific financial year. So once I've clicked on Create, there's organization details, employer, financial year, WSP start period, WSP submission start date. We are going to go under this field, which is the employer field. It has a drop down and it's shaded in sky blue. Once you click on the drop down, all your organizations that are linked to your SDF profile, they are shown here. You click on the organization you want to start with. Now, before you can work on your WSP and ATR, it's important that because you've just created, you click on save. What this eliminates is the next time when you want to log in and then you find your WSP has disappeared, it seems like it's a system error. No, it's because your creation was never saved. So always, once you've selected your employer, click on save. From there, we can start working on our WSP. First field we need to fill in is the vacancies hard to field. Here they ask you, do you have vacancies hard to fill? What vacancies hard to fill is any position in the organization that the organization is struggling to fill it. The right fit person is just not being found. That's what vacancies hard to fill means. I'm just gonna click on no. Once you click on yes, it's important that the vacancies hard to fill tab, you need to populate under it. Once you click on no, it's not mandatory. So under WSP details, there's WSP ATR details type. What this is, it gives you an option to start whether with your workplace skills plan, which is your WSP, or your annual training report, which is your ATR. Your ATR is your previous WSP or your previous training done within the organization. So that's what you have trained in the previous year or prior. This will be your report that will be used by our research department or RIME department. Now, your workplace skills plan, what this is your employer profile and your future training. So whatever training you want to conduct, you would put it in under workplace skills plan. Remember, in your training is prior training, workplace skills plan is future training. I'm just going to start with your workplace skills plan. Your workplace skills plan has total employment profile, has plan training, adult education and training, which is, it's not mandatory, vacancies how to fill, document uploads, status of WSP submission, and WSP evaluation. Please, all these tabs have to be populated, except for adult education and training. That is not a mandatory tab. So I'm gonna start with in total employment profile. What this is just employee profile of all the permanently employed staff. That's your total employment profile. And then your plan training, you include whoever you wanna train. Now the catch is here, with plan training, you can include people who are not in your TEP, which is your total employment profile. But to include those people under plan training, they would have to be doing training that is pivotal and not non-pivotal. What pivotal training is, it's accredited training. It wouldn't make sense, obviously, if I add X and X onto my plan training, but I'm adding them for telephone etiquette. Then what are they going to do with that specific skills training? So it needs to be accredited training, like your bursaries, your internship, and learnership. So we'll start with your TEP. Once you click on add an item, your first line will be populated, which is shaded in blue. Your SDL number will be populated here. We type in the name, the surname, citizen, ID type, it will be ID document. If it's a foreigner, you can click on passport. Employee ID, it has to be full ID without any errors, and then it automatically updates my date of birth. The next field is OFO code. What OFO code is, it's a unique number that describes your job title. Every job title has an OFO code. If we see the first one, it's 2021/10101. This OFO code belongs to local or provincial government legislator. Hypothetically say you don't know your OFO for that specific job title. Where you're gonna go, you're gonna click on this drop down, you click on search more. You know the job title obviously, but you don't know the specific OFO code number. What I'm gonna search for is photographer. Once I search by the job title, I need to click on occupation and not OFO code. So I click on it and here it pops up. photographer, there's photographer, and then there's photographer's assistant. Then I'm just gonna select the photographer. If you look at what's happening now is we were busy on OFL code, but it populated the occupation as well. So once you select on your OFL code or you search for your job title, it'll populate the occupation tab for you. The specialization tab, that is just a brief description of your exact job title. I'm a data officer, but what do I specialize in? What's my specialty? So my specialty would be WSP, for example. For photographers, the specializations will all of them will pop up. So these specializations will be specifically for the occupation of photographers. So I'll just select sports photographer. My province is Gauteng. My city, I'll select Alberton, which is the first one. And then urban rural will be populated automatically. Then my highest education level. Now remember, this is TEP, which is the employee profile. I'll select 8, 9, and 10, NQF 8, 9, and 10. My race, African, and male. Now, with my TEP line, I am done. See, there's a red line, but because there is no SDL number. Once you've linked your organization, the SDL number is populated automatically. Now we are done with TEP, we go to plan training. Now remember, plan training is a tab for whoever the organization is planning on training within the next financial year. So in this case, we said that with TEP, you need to input all permanently employed employees. With plan training, you can add your volunteers, you can add your interns, your learner-based volunteers. But to add them, they need to be pivotal, which is accredited training. Now, I'm just going to add myself. We should never confuse ATR to plan training. Remember, ATR is past training, plan training is future training. OFO code, remember on TEP, I said I'm a photographer, so I'm gonna search for it again, search by occupation, click on it, and then it populates the occupation tab. Specialization, it was sports photographer. So basically the plan training is the same as TEP, but it just has extended columns for the training. There's a drop down for the training columns. My training, I'll just say it's a life skills on type of training. The type of training column has a drop down with all the types of training. And then when you're doing your WSP online, it will give you fields that are mandatory and fields that are not mandatory. So the fields that are mandatory are always shaded in blue. Type of training, I'll say Excel, Advanced Excel. And then because I had said non-pivotal, as you can see, it blocks me from inputting under the pivotal program qualification, pivotal program institution. So the cost, I'll just say it is 1.5. The start date, now remember it's plan training. So the plan training, because we said it's future training, it should always be in advance. So because we are working on 2023-2024 WSP ATR, your plan, because our financial year starts from 1 April to 31st of March. So your plan training, be careful, it needs to be from the next year, 1 April. So that's what you're gonna do. We can't input a date that is prior to that. So it'll be 2023. I will pick the 3rd of April, just after the new financial year. The end date, because it's a non-pivotal training, honestly, it can be 1 day. So I can just say it's a day course. And under NQF level, remember, because in the beginning type of training we said non-pivotal, so you can't say level 10 for a non-pivotal training program. And I'll just select a below, or let's just select a level 5. And then remember, each and every entry you input, you always click on save. So I'm done with my planned training here. I'm done with my TEP here. I go on top, on the top left in red, there's a save button. I click on save, just to ensure that I don't lose my work. Adult education and training is not mandatory, as we said. You can skip it. Vacancies, how to fill, it depends. Because when we started, I said I don't have any vacancies how to fill. Therefore, it is not a mandatory field. Now we are on document uploads. What we're busy with is Workplace Skills Plan, which is WSP. For WSP, document needed to be uploaded are your authorization page, your tax clearance, your proof of consultation or attendance register. This is the attendance register for the consultation team. This is not attendance register for the training that will happen or that has happened. And then the minutes of meeting are for also the consultation training team within the organization. For organizations that have more than 50 employees, all these fields will be mandatory. If you have 49, which is less than 50, the only thing that you need to attach will be your authorization page and your tax clearance page. That's all. You don't need your attendance register and your minutes of meetings. Now, let me show you how to upload a document. You click on this drop down. It will say create edit. You click on create edit. You name the document because this is authorization page. You name it. And then you click on select. So I'll go to wherever I've saved my document and double click on it. Once I double click on it, it's attached next to select. Now, once you are here, it's important not to click on save as, where my cursor is. You click on save at the bottom next to discard. And your document is attached, as you can see. The same will happen with your tax clearance certificate. And we are done with our WSP. It's very important to note that documents attached should be documents appropriate to the field where you're attaching to. Do not upload your authorization page under attendance register, because if you have less than 50, we won't even look at attendance register and minutes of meetings when evaluating. So upload the correct document in the correct field. We are done with WSP, we go to ATR. ATR has actual training field, adult education, variance, WSP impact assessment, document uploads as well, status of WSP submission. Remember, we said annual training is training that was conducted in the previous financial year. So now you basically reported on what you were granted funding on. So if Wsp Atr had endorsed you, let's say, for learnership and bursaries, you will report them under actual training. Now, adding the field here is the same as your planned training. There's type of training, first name, employee ID, OFO, occupation, specialization, province, city, urban. They're the same as your planned training and your training fields. But the only difference will be it's for the previous financial year. Within ATR, adult and education training is not mandatory, but there's variance. This is a mandatory field. So if you see, it says the actual training must be a minimum of 60% of the planned training. Reason must be provided for any variances between planned and training. So what variance is the difference between your planned training and your actual training. Now it will populate itself automatically. So if I have 3 lines here under the actual training tab, when I go to variance, hypothetically saying I had inputted your bursary training. All 3 entries were bursary training. They'll be included under all these tabs where my cursor is. So for internship, it will state that there was 2 people that were trained for internships. And then you'd also have to provide comments on and reasons as to how the training was conducted. So if it was successful, you will just click on successful here. You'll type successful. It needs a comment in each and every field where there's a tally. So as you can see, there's non-pivotal training, and then there's pivotal training. Our next tab will be the WSP impact assessment. This is basically just a questionnaire on how the training was conducted and if it benefited the organization, and if it did benefit the organization, to what extent. If it didn't, you'll also specify. Each and every question, as you can see, it has the same answers from a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being the least satisfactory. Once we are done with WSP impact assessment questions, so on number 4, there's indicate how training as reported in the ATR has affected the organization. This rectangular shape is not a drop down like the other questions. You need to type answering the question. Number 5 as well, it says percentage payroll spent on training. This is also a rectangular shape that you need to type the specific percent of the payroll spent. So if it's 5, you'll type in 5. So once we are done with WSP impact assessment, there's document upload. Document upload, now let's not confuse the document uploads to the one under WSP. The ATR one is different. It requires proof of training, documents, which are your invoice receipts, and your attendance registers and certificates. Under invoice and receipt, you upload 1 document. If there are more than 1 for invoice and receipts and attendance registers and certificates, you will go to other documents, add an item. There you can add as many as you can. So if you have 50, you'll upload adding an item for each and every line. So that's all that's needed for the document uploads for ATR. Remember, each and every time we are done with something, document uploads, WSP impact assessment questionnaires, the actual training, you always click on save at the top. And make sure that partial save is not ticked in. So mine is not, because what that means is it's a temporary saving format. That is your actual training and your WSP. Submitting your WSP online is majority for smaller organizations, private companies, or your NPOs. In this regard, I always advise that organizations with less than 250 can do it online. Your bigger organizations would obviously use an Excel template to populate the WSP and ATR, because what it does is it allows you to copy and paste from your existing employee database at your specific organization. Then you just paste onto our Excel. I'll be showing you on where to download the Excel. For stakeholders that have 251 and more employees, I always advise them you can use the Excel. For less than 250, I advise against it, because the more the data, the more difficult it is to use our Excel, because it does have validations, it does have formulas, so it gets a bit tricky. Under SDP, there's document library. Click on document library. Then on your far right, just under your name, next to number of records, you'll see there's form view. Click on form view. Now this is where you get all your documents for when working with an Excel. OFOs are here, your authorization page. Remember under WSP required, one of the documents required was your authorization page. Now your less than 50 employees is here, your more than 50 employees is here. Next to WSP template, as we can see where my cursor is, there's download plan WSP. This is your WSP template. There's 2 templates, your ATR template and your WSP template. You download them. You also need to download the OFO template. I'm opening the WSP template and I'm opening the OFO template. So I'll have both of them opened. It makes it easier because you go from one tab to another frequently. So if you see from the OFO template, there's two tabs, occupation and specialization. So the occupation has the specific description and OFO code. What you'll do in this case, you'll just filter, have your filters on every time, so you are able to search for your specific job title. Photographer is here, so I'll just select it, have it on because that's the OFO I had selected. Now under specialization for photographers, I would need to copy my OFO number to get the specific specializations for the photographer. So I go under specialization, have my filters on again. I don't go under description because I have the OFO. The only thing I would need, so I search by, remember I copied the OFO under occupation tab. I paste it under the OFO filter here in specialization, and it will give you all the specializations for the photographer. So as you can see, it's very different from how it looks online. Online, it's easier, it does everything for you. Here, it needs a bit of skill and preciseness. I've downloaded my Excel, the WSP template. I'm gonna click on enable editing. Let's not worry about the NAs here. These have lookups that just, when you paste the OFO code, what it does, it just pulls the occupation automatically for you. The first column is your SDL number. Obviously, as the stakeholder, as this SDF, you know your SDL number or your T number. You input it here. Make sure it's correct because it's going to give you an error when you have to import. The process is the same. We start with TP, which is Total Employment Profile, Plan Training, Adult Education Training, Vacancies, How to Fill. Now with Vacancies, How to Fill, it also has your not applicables. It's important to know that if you don't have any vacancies how to fill, remember it's not a mandatory tab. So if you don't have, now we don't have, you delete all of them. If you forget about this process, it will give you tons and tons of errors when you're trying to import because it has the formulas. Now this TP tab, again, like online, it's the same. The columns are the same as doing it online. The difference here is that a stakeholder would ask, why do I have to use the template because it seems more tedious or difficult than online? Now, if you have 5,000 employees, like some of the organizations we have in our system, to do that one by one is one big task. So from our side, we're thinking you would have your own Excel that has the names of all employees and the surnames of all employees, the ID numbers of all employees. What you do in this case, you just copy from your side and paste onto our spreadsheet. So for example, if I'm copying, let's say 500 at a time, just make sure that you're copying their first names and then that the columns when pasting, they don't get messed up. When we paste using special values. So when you right click and paste, it's either you use special values or you paste using match destination formatting. What match destination formatting does, it takes how your Excel is and then it just formulates it into what our Excel wants or requires. So in this case, I won't be pasting anything because I'm doing it one by one. I don't have big data. And wherever there's a drop down, it's important to use that drop down. Don't type in for yourself, click on that drop down. Then with employee ID, some organizations make the mistakes of inputting their organization number for that specific employee. No, this is your South African ID. Then ID tab, there's a drop down, click on ID document. Now, unlike online, it does not auto-populate for you because it's an Excel template. So in this case, how you type your date of birth, it will be year, month, day. Doesn't really matter, it can be slash, it can be this, it can be this. Just as long as the format is the same. Then once you are done with this, I always advise stakeholders, especially for the ones that copy from their spreadsheets to another, just highlight the whole column, the whole date of birth column, to align your data, to make sure your data is aligned. Highlight it and then go to number format and then click on short date. What this does, it formats the whole column in a unified manner. The same is with the ID, the whole column, number. Just make sure that it's not in text format. The SDL number doesn't matter. Now I'm gonna go back to my OFO template. Just copy the OFO code, input it here. Remember I said special values or match destination formatting. As you can see, the occupation populated automatically, but not the specialization. And even if there's a drop down, it's not really the correct specialization. You'll have to go one by one. So just go back to your OFO template and choose the appropriate specialization for your specific job title. So mine was sports photographer. So the only thing I do, I just copy, come back this side, right click, special values again. Province, select, it's a drop down, select, no typing here. City as well, no typing, select. Urban, wherever the drop down, make sure that no one types. So highest education level, it's 8, 9, 10. Race, African, gender, male. Disability, no. Now I'm done with my one line. But in this case, if you pasting over 500 entries, you really need to make sure that your data is formulated correctly and it meets what our Excel expects from it, because the stress of reading all those error messages are difficult. So as I said, where there's a number, make sure the column is in number format. Where there's a date, make sure that your date is in short date format. For the OFO, make sure that you have used the right OFO for the right occupation and specialization. So these need to be linked. The most important thing is not to tamper with our validations on the Excel. So because I said I'm done with my one line under TEP, once you know that you are done with all your lines or rows, you need to delete your not applicables. Remember when I started, I said system does not allow to import with formulas. So you need to delete your formulas. The same goes with planned training. Like we did online, type of training, pivotal, non-pivotal. The difference between working on the Excel and online. With the Excel, everything is manual. So it does not show you whether a column is mandatory or not. I've selected pivotal under type of training. When I come to the column O and P, they need to be populated. For column U, now because I also said my type of training is pivotal, I can't say no, it's not NQF aligned. When I initially said it's pivotal, I need to select yes under NQF aligned. For the NQF level again, very important, then you select the right one. Now here's another important factor. We're doing planned training. Remember I said it's future training. And Wsp financial year period runs from the 1st of April to the 31st March in the next year. So planned training is very important because this is in build up to the 2023-2024 WSP. So it's very important that your start date will be from 1 April 2023. For end date, you can input 2026. It will not restrict you from putting a year that's different from current financial year period. For all these columns, we input them like the TEP tab. For planned training is people that we will be going to training in the next financial year. OFO code, remember, you go to your OFO template, then you paste it here using special values. The occupation, because they are not applicables, It will populate automatically. You input all the fields. Once you are satisfied with your work, once you are satisfied with the Excel, you delete the not applicables from your last populated row. Go to the next tab. The adult education tab is not mandatory. Vacancies hard to fill is not mandatory because I said no when I created my WSP. In this case, we are saying we're done. Once we are done and satisfied with our work, you go back to your created WSP on the system. Remember, because I had not saved it, but yours will be saved, so you don't have to create again. Now we are importing. You click on More, Import WSP, click on WSP, go to wherever your WSP is saved. Let's say it's this one. Then you say Import WSP. Now if it has errors, which this one will have, your error log will come back. Now here is my error log. This is straightforward unless there is just too many errors. Now when there's too many errors, it gives you a back-end error report. What I always advise stakeholders is that download your error message. So when you go back to work on your Excel, you have it already opened. This is my error message. When it says province not found at column 8, row 2 of plan training. Now it's specific, it didn't say of your total employment profile. It's at plan training sheet. Now you know you need to go back to your plan training. So column 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's your province. If you see, it is empty. So you fix that. Even cost per learner is invalid. Here, I did not mention your cost needs to be a whole number. Read your error messages. Once you've corrected your template, make sure that you go back to your WSP on the system. So the WSP that was initially created where you imported, you go back to it and you clear. So you can see here there's a clear all button. Because if you don't do that, remember what the system does. Sometimes it imports the correct rows. The correct columns and correct rows will be there, but it will just eliminate what was incorrect. Now, if you fix your Excel and not clear, what will happen is duplications. So to avoid duplicates, before you import again, just select on clear all. Likewise, if you are working on your workplace skills plan, you clear and re-upload. On how to import the template, that's about it. To all stakeholders who took their time to watch this WSP ATR tutorial, thank you very much. For any queries, kindly get in touch with us. From myself and the Wsp Atr family, goodbye.